Now, the next thing I want to talk about is cost basis. You will hear people talk about selling covered calls at their cost basis. This is something that makes zero sense to me, and let me show you why. Here's what they do. If they buy their shares at 695.37, let's say, okay, every time I sell a covered call, so let me bring up my calculator for those that are listening, I'll explain this. So let's say I just sold a cover call and I got $4 for it, okay? That's my premium, $4 times 100 is $400. Okay. Because remember, every contract represents 100 shares. So I generated $400 in premium, right? But I really generated $4 in um, towards if you wanted to look at my cost basis, right? So here's how it works. If I pay $695 for my shares. Okay. 695 for my shares. And I generate a premium of $4 for a cover call. That $4 really translates to 40 cents to take off my purchase price. Okay. And that would be my cost basis. So I paid 695. I sold a covered call for $4. That remember, each option represents 100 shares. So that $4 really translates to 40 cents per share. Okay. So if I subtract that 40 cents from my purchase price of 695, my cost basis is 694.60. Okay. Now, here's why this is important to understand because this is what I see a lot of folks do. When you first start your strategy, especially most times we're in a bull market. So you're just going to be constantly being called away, buying back, selling a cover call, called away, buying back, selling a cover call. This is generally what happens to me, depending on how strong the bull market is. But now imagine we've gone, I'm going to say 5 months of selling cover calls. Remember, each week we were making 40 cents towards our purchase price, right? So each week was 40 cents. Let's multiply that times 4 times a week. That's $1.60. And let's say we've done this for 5 months. So I'm going to multiply that times 5. Now we've generated the equivalent of $8 in cover call premiums towards the purchase price. And this is what folks will do. They will take all that. And so they bought their shares at 695, okay? 695, and they will deduct $8 because that's what they've generated per share in covered call premiums. And now their cost basis is 687. And the reason they do this is because when the market goes down like it did the other day. Look, the market went on January 16th. It opened at 693 and it closed at 691. And the very next day it opened at 681 and closed at 677. Well, if you're trying to sell a 695 or 696 cover call like me, the premiums are garbage, right? You have to go much farther out. So what these influencers will tell them is like, no, 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 don't worry. Sell at your cost basis now. So now they give them the right to sell at 689 because that would, the market's at, well, the market was at 681. So they give them the green light to go ahead and sell at 681 because you're not going to lose any money because your cost basis was 687, right? Or all right, so let me rephrase that. They'll tell them, go ahead and sell at 687 because that's your cost basis. So if you get assigned, you don't lose any money. And that's entirely true. That's absolutely correct. Except you just gave up all your premiums from the previous 5 months to do that. Okay, understand that. If you use cost basis, it means you're taking all the premiums you get to keep. This is booked profit, and you're putting it into a trade that is going to lose it potentially. And that's what ends up happening. So when this, and make no mistake, I've seen this talked about by influencers quite a bit where they'll say, no, 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 I'm always making 1% because I'm always selling at my cost basis. And it's like, well, you're not then because any percentage you made prior to being assigned, when you sell an option at your cost basis as opposed to your purchase price, the minute you are assigned, that cost basis was based on profit you made. That profit is gone now. Okay. This is basic math. Okay. So just understand that. When it comes to cover call strategy, I don't guarantee to anyone that you can make 1% a month. I don't guarantee that to myself, other than that's my average. So that's how I do my cover call strategy. I don't guarantee I'm going to make 1% a month. That's just been my average over the years that I make about 1% a month. There are going to be times when I don't make anything. As a matter of fact, if you look at my spreadsheet for members that have looked at my spreadsheet, um, you can look at my spreadsheet from the beginning of 2025, and you will notice that in January, February, and March, I made like $200-300 a month. Well, that's not 1% of that account. And so, but then you get into other months where I made well over, there was one month I made, I think, 11 or $12,000 in cover call premiums. That's not the average. The average is about 6 to 7 grand a month. And so when you get to the end of the year, when I get to the end of the year, I tabulate it all out, and that's what it shows me. Hey, you made about 1% a month. So that's it, you guys. That's the cover call strategy. That's my cover call strategy.